Have you ever wondered what the craziest, most unbelievable way to die is? Today we are going to count down 5 ridiculous, insane, just plain bizarre deaths in all of human history. These aren't just stories. These are real people who met their end in ways you couldn't even make up. We're talking about inventors killed by their own inventions, artists whose passion led directly to their demise, and daredevils who took one risk too many. It's going to be absolutely wild, I promise you. By the end of this video, you will be speechless. This video was incredibly difficult to put together because some of these stories sound like urban legends, but I had my team research every detail to make sure these are 100% verified stories. We're going to explore the moments leading up to these fatal accidents, the bizarre choices they made, and the shocking irony that makes their deaths unforgettable. It's a journey through history, but not the kind you learned about in school. This is the stuff that's too weird for the textbooks. So, get ready. We're about to dive deep into a world of tragic accidents and unbelievable endings. We're starting with a world-famous dancer whose fashion statement turned deadly in the blink of an eye. You will not believe how this happened. We have 5 stories to get through, each one crazier than the last. Make sure you watch until the very end, because the #1 spot is an ending so ironic, it's almost impossible to comprehend. Let's get into it. Kicking off our list at number 5 is the world-renowned dancer, Isadora Duncan. Imagine being one of the most famous performers on the entire planet. Everyone knows your name, you've changed the world of dance forever, you are living a life of absolute luxury on the French Riviera. You are the definition of a celebrity, a true icon of the 1920s. Your signature style is known across the globe. That style included long, flowing silk scarves that would trail behind you, a symbol of your free-spirited art. One beautiful evening in 1927, Isadora was getting into a brand new, top-of-the-line sports car. It was an open-top Emil car, the kind of car that screamed glamour and excitement. She was with a handsome young mechanic, and as she got into the passenger seat, she draped a massive, hand-painted silk scarf around her neck. It was a gift from a friend, and its long, beautiful ends flowed dramatically in the breeze. She was feeling on top of the world, ready for a thrilling ride along the coast. As she prepared to leave, she called out to her friends with a flair for the dramatic, "Adieu mes amis, je vais à la gloire." Those would be her final words. She was feeling poetic, triumphant, completely unaware of the horrifying fate that was just seconds away. The car was about to pull away from the curb, a simple, everyday action that would turn into a scene of absolute tragedy. The car started to move forward. It wasn't going fast, just beginning to accelerate down the street. But the long, beautiful scarf she was wearing, the very symbol of her artistic freedom, was dangling over the side of the low-slung sports car. The fabric, so light and delicate, was caught by the wind and whipped backwards, directly towards the rear axle and the open-spoked wheels of the vehicle. It was a 1-in-a-million chance, a freak accident waiting to happen. In a split second, the fringe of the scarf became entangled in the spinning wheel. The powerful mechanics of the car did the rest. The silk, which seemed so fragile, was now a deadly rope. It instantly tightened around her neck with immense force, yanking her violently from her seat and pulling her out onto the hard cobblestone street. The sheer force of the pull was so catastrophic that it broke her neck and strangled her almost instantaneously. The driver, completely oblivious for a moment, was only alerted by the screams of Isadora's friends who witnessed the entire horrific event. He slammed on the brakes, but it was far too late. The famous dancer, who had captivated audiences around the world with her graceful movements, was killed in the most brutal and shocking way imaginable. Her life of art and beauty ended in a flash of mechanical violence. The irony is just staggering. A woman known for her flowing, unrestrained dance style, killed by her signature flowing scarf. It was the very object that represented her art and her public persona that became the instrument of her death. It's a detail so specific and so cruel that it sounds like something out of a Greek tragedy, not a real-life event on the streets of Nice, France. Her death was immediate and shocking, sending ripples across the world. Newspapers everywhere reported the bizarre and tragic story. Coming in at number 4 is a story of ambition so high it reached the top of the Eiffel Tower, with a fall that was just as great. This is Franz Reichelt, Austrian-born French tailor, and an inventor. In the early 1900s, with the dawn of aviation, he became obsessed, creating a wearable parachute. the parachute suit. He poured time and money into it. It looked like a giant winged bat costume of canvas with a silk canopy. He tested from his fifth-floor apartment using dummies. Some tests worked, many failed. He petitioned Parisian police to test from the Eiffel Tower. After months, permission was granted. They assumed he'd use a dummy. He had other plans. On Feb 4, 1912, a crowd and journalists gathered. Cameras rolled. So, we have the footage. Franz arrived wearing the suit himself. Friends begged him not to jump. They warned of bad weather and an unproven suit. He climbed to the first deck, about 187 feet up. That's like jumping from an 18-story building. The footage shows him on a small stool, looking down. He hesitates for 40 seconds, wind whips the contraption, then he jumps. For a split second the parachute seems to billow. It doesn't deploy. The suit wraps him like a shroud. He plummets straight down. The fall lasts only seconds. He hits the frozen ground with incredible force. A crater several inches deep is left. Reporters witnessed his final moments. He was killed instantly. The medical examiner reported skull fractured, his spine broken, massive internal bleeding. No real scientific data supported human use. He ignored warnings and dummy failures. His belief blinded him to deadly risk. He jumped to his death, driven by a dream of flying. The film became infamous, newsreels worldwide. Franz Reichelt, the Flying Tailor, a cautionary tale. He orchestrated his own public execution for an invention doomed from the start. Chapter 3. For our number 3 spot, we have a story of irony so thick you could cut it with a knife. This is the death of Thomas Midgley Jr., a brilliant but controversial chemist and inventor. You might not know his name, but you definitely know his inventions. Leaded gasoline, Freon, 2 of the most environmentally damaging substances ever created. Some historians have said he had more impact on the atmosphere than any other single organism in Earth's history, but that's not how he died. In 1940, at age 51, Midgley contracted polio. The disease left him severely disabled, bedridden, dependent on others to move him. He couldn't stand being helpless. He decided to invent a solution. He engineered an elaborate system of ropes, pulleys, and motors right there in his bedroom. This contraption was built around his bed. The idea: pull ropes or activate a motorized system to lift and maneuver himself without assistance. It was intricate. A web of ropes and harnesses connected to a powerful motor. He used it for years. It was his final invention. On November 2, 1944, the unthinkable happened. Using the device alone, he somehow became entangled in the very ropes and pulleys he had created. The more he struggled, the tighter the ropes became. The harnesses, the ropes, the motor, all together ended up strangling him. He was found dead in his bed, tangled in the contraption. Official cause: accidental strangulation by his own bed harness. A quiet, private, and grim end. The irony is almost too perfect. A man who poisoned the air with lead and depleted the ozone with CFCs was killed by a machine he made to save himself. It's a dark twist on unintended consequences. He was a man who wanted to control the world around him, from the molecules in gasoline to his own disabled body. But in his final moments, he lost control completely, ensnared and killed by his own ingenuity. Chapter 4. At number 2, we travel back to the lavish and dramatic world of 17th century France to uncover a death so absurd it sounds like a comedy sketch. This is the story of Jean-Baptiste Lully, one of the most powerful and famous composers of his time. He was the official court composer for King Louis XIV, the Sun King. Lully wasn't just a musician, he was a celebrity, a director, a dancer, and a conductor who dominated the French music scene. In this era, before conductors used small, lightweight batons, they kept time by banging a massive, heavy wooden staff on the floor. Think of a giant walking stick, often ornate and very heavy. It was a loud, forceful way to keep the orchestra and singers in sync. Lully was known for his passionate and energetic conducting style. In January of 1687, Lully was conducting a Te Deum, a massive piece to celebrate King Louis XIV's recovery from surgery. The king himself was there, and the performance had to be perfect. Lully, in his typical fiery fashion, was pounding his large conducting staff on the floor with incredible force and passion. driving the orchestra forward. He was completely lost in the music. During this intense performance, in a moment of overzealous timekeeping, he missed the floor. Instead of striking the wooden stage, he brought the heavy pointed staff down with full force directly onto his own foot. He stabbed his toe, creating a nasty wound. Imagine the pain of that, but he was a professional. In front of the king and the entire court, he couldn't just stop the show, so he kept going. After the concert, the wound became infected. In the 17th century, with no antibiotics, even a small wound could be a death sentence. The infection quickly worsened, and gangrene began to set in. His foot turned black, and the infection started spreading up his leg. Doctors told him the only way to save his life was to amputate his foot, but Lully absolutely refused. Why? Because he was also a celebrated dancer. He couldn't bear the thought of living without being able to dance. He stubbornly believed he would heal and refused the life-saving surgery, putting his vanity and his career as a dancer above his own survival. His decision was a fatal one. Chapter 5. And now, for the number 1, the end of the great Harry Houdini. Houdini wasn't just a magician, he was a global superstar. The man who could escape from anything. He escaped from handcuffs, he escaped from straitjackets, he escaped from jail cells, he escaped from water-filled tanks. He built his entire career on the idea that he was invincible. A key part of his act, he could take any punch to the stomach. He'd trained his abdominal muscles to be as hard as steel. He would challenge audience members to punch him. It was a display of superhuman strength and control. In October 1926, he was in his dressing room at the Princess Theatre in Montreal, reclining on a couch, talking to students from McGill. One student, J. Gordon Whitehead, an amateur boxer, asked if he could withstand a punch. Houdini, distracted and unprepared, said yes. Before he could brace himself, Whitehead unleashed 2 or 3 powerful punches to the stomach. Accounts differ, but it was at least 2 or 3 hard blows. Houdini was caught off guard and winced, but straightened up and carried on. He was in severe pain for the rest of the day and refused a doctor. He traveled, by train, to Detroit, suffering from what we now know was a ruptured appendix. Arriving in Detroit, he had a fever of 104. A doctor urged immediate hospital care. Houdini refused. He insisted on performing one last time. He performed in agony and collapsed after the final curtain. Rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Doctors found a burst appendix and severe peritonitis. In the pre-antibiotic era, this was almost always fatal. After several days, Houdini died on Halloween 1926. The controversy remains. Did the punches cause the rupture, or would appendicitis have killed him anyway? Most experts now say the blunt trauma likely caused the appendix to rupture, leading to fatal infection. His stunt, done at the wrong time, set off a deadly chain reaction. The irony, the man who escaped death died because he protected his legend. Outro. And there you have it, 5 of the most ridiculous, unbelievable, and tragic deaths in all of history. From a scarf that turned into a noose, a composer who stabbed his own foot. These stories prove that truth is often stranger than fiction. These were real people, at the top of their fields, whose lives ended in ways that are almost impossible to believe. It just goes to show you that no matter how famous, talented, or invincible you think you are, life can throw you a curveball that you never see coming. What I find so fascinating about these stories is the element of irony. An escape artist who couldn't escape a punch. An inventor killed by his own helpful machine. A dancer killed by her signature accessory. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes our greatest strengths or most defining characteristics can lead to our downfall. It makes you think about the strange and unpredictable nature of life and death, and how quickly everything can change based on one small, seemingly insignificant decision or event. Thank you so much for watching. If you were as shocked by these stories as I was, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we have so many more insane videos coming your way. Which death on this list did you find the most ridiculous? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. We're going to be exploring another unbelievable historical topic that you won't want to miss. See you in the next one.